Behind the luminous smile that captivated millions lay a darkness so profound it would have destroyed a lesser soul. What secrets did Gene Tierney carry as she graced Hollywood's golden screens? In the 1940s, when Hollywood manufactured dreams and sold them to a war-weary world, Gene Tierney emerged as the perfect femme fatale. Her porcelain features and mysterious eyes made her the ideal canvas for directors who needed a woman capable of both vulnerability and danger. But the woman who would become synonymous with film noir's most haunting characters was fighting battles far more treacherous than any script could imagine. Born into privilege in Brooklyn in 1920, Jean Eliza Tierney seemed destined for greatness. Her father's insurance fortune provided her with the finest education, including finishing school in Switzerland. Yet beneath this polished exterior, a sensitive soul yearned for something more meaningful than society parties and debutante balls. When she discovered acting, it wasn't just a career choice. It was a lifeline to a world where she could transform her pain into art. Tierney's rise in Hollywood was meteoric. Her breakthrough came with The Return of Frank James in 1940, but it was her collaboration with director Otto Preminger that would define her legacy. In Laura, in 1944, she played a woman so alluring that men fell in love with her portrait. The irony wasn't lost on audiences. Here was an actress whose own beauty had become both her greatest asset and her most dangerous weapon. What made Tierney's performances so compelling wasn't just her physical beauty. It was the way she channeled genuine vulnerability into roles that demanded both strength and fragility. In Leave Her to Heaven in 1945, she portrayed Ellen Barrett, a woman whose obsessive love destroys everything she touches. The performance earned her an Academy Award nomination, but few realized how closely it mirrored her own capacity for both devotion and self-destruction. Tierney's method wasn't calculated manipulation like many femme fatales. Instead, she wielded power through an almost supernatural ability to make audiences believe in her character's emotional truth. Directors found her irresistible, not because she was difficult or demanding, but because she brought an authenticity to roles that could have easily become caricatures. When she smiled, you believed it. When she wept, you felt her pain. But behind the camera, Tierney's life was unraveling in ways that would have made her screen characters seem tame by comparison. In 1943, while pregnant with her first child, she contracted rubella after being exposed to the virus by a fan at the Hollywood canteen. The consequences were devastating. Her daughter Daria was born with severe disabilities, including deafness, partial blindness, and developmental delays. The guilt consumed Tierney. She blamed herself for attending the event, for shaking hands with fans, for not being more careful. The woman who could convey complex emotions on screen found herself drowning in a sea of self-recrimination that no amount of professional success could ease. Her marriage to fashion designer Oleg Cassini, already strained by his gambling and her career demands, couldn't survive the additional pressure. As the 1940s progressed, Tierney's performances became increasingly haunted. In The Ghost and Mrs. Muir in 1947, she played a widow who falls in love with a ghost. The role seemed to mirror her own relationship with happiness, always just out of reach, more fantasy than reality. Critics praised her ethereal quality, not knowing it came from a woman who was slowly disappearing into her own psychological shadows. The breaking point came in the early 1950s. Tierney began experiencing severe depression and anxiety attacks. The pressures of Hollywood, combined with her personal tragedies, created a perfect storm of mental illness. In an era when psychological treatment was primitive and stigmatized, she found herself trapped between public expectations and private torment. In 1953, Tierney made a decision that shocked Hollywood. She voluntarily committed herself to the Menninger Clinic in Kansas for psychiatric treatment. For a star at the height of her fame, this was career suicide. But Tierney had reached a point where survival mattered more than stardom. The treatment included electroconvulsive therapy, a brutal procedure that temporarily erased portions of her memory. The woman who emerged from treatment was different. The sharp edges of her personality had been smoothed away, but so had much of the intensity that made her performances so compelling. When she returned to Hollywood, she found an industry that had moved on. The roles she was offered lacked the complexity of her earlier work. She was still beautiful, still talented, but the mysterious quality that had made her irreplaceable was gone. Yet Tierney's story doesn't end in tragedy. In the 1960s, she found love again with Texas Oil, W. Howard Lee. Their marriage provided the stability and acceptance she had always craved. She continued acting sporadically, appearing in films and television, but her priorities had shifted. The woman who had once been consumed by her craft now found fulfillment in simpler pleasures. One of the most remarkable aspects of Tierney's later years was her advocacy for mental health awareness. Long before it became socially acceptable, she spoke openly about her struggles with depression and the importance of seeking help. She transformed her personal pain into a public service, helping to reduce the stigma surrounding mental illness. Tierney's influence extended beyond her individual performances. She represented a new kind of screen presence, one that combined classical beauty with psychological complexity. Directors like Alfred Hitchcock and Billy Wilder would later cite her as an inspiration for their own explorations of feminine psychology. Her ability to suggest hidden depths beneath a perfect surface became a template for subsequent generations of actresses. The tragic irony of Gene Tierney's career is that her greatest performances came from her deepest pain. The vulnerability that made her so compelling on screen was rooted in genuine suffering. She didn't play damaged women. She was one, channeling her authentic experience into roles that might have otherwise seemed artificial. In Laura, Detective Mark McPherson falls in love with a woman he believes is dead, studying her portrait obsessively. The film's enduring power comes from Tierney's ability to make the audience understand how someone could fall in love with an image. She possessed that rare quality of seeming both attainable and impossibly distant, real and dreamlike. Tierney once said, "I had been brought up to believe that I was invincible, that nothing could hurt me. Hollywood taught me otherwise." This statement encapsulates the journey of a woman who discovered that true strength comes not from invincibility, but from the courage to be vulnerable. When Gene Tierney died in 1991, she left behind a legacy that transcends her individual films. She proved that the most powerful femme fatales aren't those who manipulate through calculation, but those who reveal the complexity of human emotion. Her beauty was her calling card, but her willingness to expose her own fragility was her true gift to cinema. Today, as we revisit her films, we see not just a beautiful actress playing roles, but a woman courageously transforming her darkest moments into art. Gene Tierney wielded her power not through deception or manipulation, but through the most dangerous weapon of all, absolute honesty about the human condition.